Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot and welcome to today's reading. So, today's reading is our no contact reading. It's time for another one in this series. So, if you're new here, check it out, see if you resonate. These are readings that are they're general readings, they're for the collective, but what they're in these series, sometimes they're kind of getting deeper into individual messages. So the thing to note is that all of the readings are very much connected. So if you are interested in this, you may see some other good messages in the other series. So people who have been here for a little while likely have already seen this. So we're going to go ahead and get started, see what's happening in your no contact or low contact connection here. We've got the Constellation Tarot for you, the Naked Heart Tarot, and then here, another one that I love and will always get the name back mixed up. It is the Soul's Journey. We're going to go ahead and start with the Soul's Journey. So the Soul's Journey is great when you want the real truth about something, but you want it to be put gracefully. Let's see here. So the card that we're getting here is the card of Balance. It is one of my favorites, and it says, I bring a state of perfect harmony into my world, and I do so without judgment. That without judgment part really stands out to me because it sounds like the message that we've been getting so much in many of the readings lately, where if you see something that you don't love about yourself, or you see something that comes out that in some cases might look like that victim mentality, we saw that showing up. It's about looking into it, not pushing it down, but looking into it, doing the analysis around what you find there with no judgment. And here I'm going to move this little guy here so that we can see the writing on the card a little bit better. Okay, so now we're going to jump into an energy check for this person with whom you are in no contact or low contact, insufficient contact, as I like to say. But basically, we're just looking to see what's happening with them. So last time we found them kind of feeling avoidant and quiet. Well, we were right in the middle of a Mercury retrograde when we did this the last time, and we're now in that shadow period around it. So there is definite sense of them still feeling quiet, but right around the edge of your energy. We have the card of Libra, and so this card with the Constellation card, the major arcana is kind of represented with constellations. And so this is the equivalent of the Justice card in the traditional tarot. And so it's about balance, finding balance. There is something about balance that they have actually found. So when we talk about why they're so quiet and that sometimes they're looking for a sense of balance, or at least not feeling like they're being pulled in multiple directions at the same time, there's a little bit of a sense of that, having found that. It does feel temporary, but it's positive because that's something that's going to allow them to kind of feel like their feet are under them, and they're able to then start thinking about where they stand and start to think about reaching out, start to think about what those next steps look like. So they're just at that point, though, where they're starting to get their footing. Ace of Pentacles is the concept of starting something new, but not the act of it. Okay, so this is Pentacles. It is going to be real world, 3D type behavior. However, it is much more the concept rather than the act. So this is where the idea is coming out, and it comes out from this state of balance. So it's a little bit better, more stable of an idea, which I think fits nicely with some of what we've been seeing coming out, especially. So even in yesterday's reading, when we did the third party, in the extended, we looked a little bit deeper to just kind of see what was happening there, what you needed to do next, what you expect from the situation. And what we saw was that the shifts that were happening with that third party seem to be helping your person, helping your divine masculine really kind of drive they're making better use of the wisdom, making better use of the wisdom that they've recently learned. And this shows that. This really kind of is consistent with that energy. Seven of Wands in the reverse, though, does seem like they don't feel like they have very much support, or maybe even something working against them in this, that they don't feel like that they have control over, or that they can easily get past. Ace of Pentacles in the reverse, talking about they're not doing. And then we've got the Sun, they're missing an opportunity to do. Okay, so they're missing an opportunity to accomplish something, what they think they're missing. So they have, throughout this whole Mercury retrograde, which ran through the 29th, November 9th through 29th. So that was about 20 days of them feeling like they should be doing something, feeling like their energy was being pulled into you. But as we saw in the last no contact reading, we asked the question directly, in the extended. So are they going to reach out? And I even put some sort of time frame on it. I wanted to know in that week and during the time of the Mercury retrograde, were they likely to reach out at that time? And the answer that came out was that they were less likely to reach out during the time of the Mercury retrograde. Okay. They were using it kind of as, it felt like an excuse to me that they were using this need to keep their evolution a secret until they know what they're doing. Okay. And it kind of felt like now it feels like they know darn well they're pushing it too far. That starts to feel very heavy, starts to feel like an excuse. And that's the sort of energy that they've got going right now, where they do have this sense of quietude, wisdom, starting to see some of the balance that's coming in. But they also know they've been dragging their feet too much on this relationship, and that their energy is, they're at a point where they should start to think about doing something different. Really starting, yep, we do get this card, really starting to show up in dreams for you, possibly. I know that's something that I've been hearing an awful lot about, is really just kind of the showing up in dreams and the pain in the daytime, the waking time. So, all right, it's their dreams. Maybe it's spilling over into yours also. You are spilling over into their dream, or you're in their dreams. And in their awake time, this is literal sleeping dreams. They're not having a hard time sleeping, or maybe they are, but that's not the relevant point. The point is that you're showing up in their dreams, and they are having them, and they are remembering them. And the Ten of Swords is about in the daytime, where they kind of become more aware. I use the term sometimes that their issues are thrown into stark relief. This is one of those times. And so this is where we find them energetically. I mean, I guess this is why we ask the question, because last time we saw them very much in cover it up mode. I'm avoidant. And now you see them in, I'm standing on my own 2 feet. I'm missing an opportunity actively as we speak, and I'm very aware of it. But it's a lot different. It's a lot more like looking directly at the issue, rather than just being avoidant of it. But with the Tower here in the reverse and the 5 of Cups coming out, it isn't completely like, okay, now I'm ready to do something about it. Once again, over here with this Ace of Pentacles, what I saw was the concept of something new coming up, but not the act of it. This Tower in the reverse represents the act of it being a little bit farther off. They're still hiding behind that excuse of, no, I gotta wait till a certain point, but that point isn't very well defined. The point isn't very well defined. They know they're missing an opportunity. They know they could be doing better than this, but for some reason they haven't been able to push themselves any farther or any faster, even though the pressure has been there, and now it basically surrounds them to the point where their energy is right around you. Their energy is practically surrounding you. So you probably have some awareness of this. Some of you, I know you do, because I'm getting the notes. Others are saying, I feel like this person is distinctly not where I left them. You know, I don't know that they're absent, but they're not where I left them. Their energy feels a little bit different. Definitely some movement over here. And with the 5 of Cups, though, this is the part that keeps them quiet. I mean, we're going to look a little bit more into it, but it's like it's almost it's digging them even deeper into their silence, even though they now have some idea of the fact that the silence isn't exactly helping them. There is a better path. There is a better way that they're not taking. And this 5 of Cups represents them kind of digging, it's doubling down on that silence. So let's get a feel for why they would be doing that. Why would they be doubling down on the silence? Why are they even silent now? So remember in the last reading, they had some of the old familiar reasons, maintaining that quiet streak, wanting to keep that control of the situation from that standpoint of communication, the timing of it, the narrative around your relationship. And of course, like they were saying, they were working on something, and they're feeling intimidated that working on something is going to put them into a less of a position of control. that they aren't going to be able to fight the battle on multiple fronts, was the way it came out. So now let's take a look to see why it seems like they are doubling down on that silence, why they are even more silent now, despite the fact that they feel like their energy is all around you, and you might feel it too. So we have an Eight of Swords here in the reverse. This is about refusing to overthink something, or honestly, it's pushing something out of their mind. This is about, they're not able to easily maintain this streak at this point, so they're kind of pulling out all the stops and doing anything that they would be capable of in order to do that. Anything they're capable of. Like, okay, so one person talked about having a dream where their person showed up and the conversation seemed pretty reasonable, but it's like that they could hear the interplay between this person and their other, like their other side of the conversation within their own head. So they were having a conversation and the guy said, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend?" And then as almost like part of the same sentence, he said, "I can't ask this. I need to back off." You know, that sort of thing. And so it's a matter of it's using everything they can to push this away so that they can stay in control of the situation. The Four of Wands, though, here's the thing. It's not getting smaller. At the end of a Mercury retrograde, you might expect, or they might expect if they're paying attention to it, that some of the desire to communicate would subside. It's not getting smaller. It's not subsiding. This is where you start to see possible communication. Okay. I see them pushing, they're pulling out all the stops. They're pushing this concept away. They want to maintain this streak. They are still feeling somewhat intimidated, still feeling like they need to be in control, but I think those are just ever-present feelings for them because they show up kind of everywhere in all of the readings. This person shows up as intimidated by you, intimidated by the situation, and that is not necessarily different. But here, it really feels like it's all about to fall. And even so, with that intimidation staying in the picture, there's them, reaching out and almost having no choice but to do so. We're going to bump the third question over here and do a communication check. Because I wanted to do a deep dive on this person's emotional state, which we will still do, but I'm going to push that into the extended. So I think that's very important because we've got to feel for a little bit of the edges of their emotional state. So I was like, ooh, I can't wait to get to that because that's going to be over here. But I think we're going to do that in the extended. And instead, we need to look at the communication check because this suggests that there is... this is that I'm just going to hit send. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do it. Even though you can see them, everything in them trying to kind of shut their own process down. They are having very limited experience or limited success in shutting it down. And I think they know. They're like, it's like they're holding on to something and trying to drag it back, but their feet are sliding and they're going toward a cliff and they know they're going over. They know they're going over, but they aren't stopping. They haven't stopped pulling yet. Eight of Pentacles. Okay, and I might have needed to... That one will come back up if we need it. The Eight of Pentacles in the reverse, this is where they don't feel ready. This is where they feel like they're working on something that's going to change them, and they want to use that as a wait till I'm done. Wait till I'm done. So it's kind of an excuse. Innocence of Swords. So this is like page energy. The Innocence in this deck. This deck is special because it has the traditional 78 cards, but then it has a 79th card, which is the Naked Heart card itself. They also change up some of the face cards. So the Innocence of Swords, the Innocence of anything is going to be the page. So the Innocence of Swords is going to be about a willingness to have a conversation that goes all night long. This is wanting to talk deep into the night, even if the opportunity isn't really there, the feeling is. And this is where you start getting people coming into your dreams. And that's not something that I feel like it's been showing up more and more in this collective, the concept of someone coming into your dreams, being part of your dreams, but actually like an awareness, a shared experience within that dream is what's a little bit different about it. So it's not just the person shows up in your dream, and they don't appear to be showing up in disguise anymore either. That was something that we were seeing a lot, probably, I guess, a few weeks ago, maybe it was a month ago. I feel like at the beginning of the retrograde, maybe. They were still showing up in disguise in many people's dreams, and I'm now hearing, well, it's them. So we've got the Judgment card. What hasn't gone well so far, what they have not allowed themselves to accommodate and accomplish so far, all of that starts to show up, and it starts to feel like a weight that has to be somehow resolved. They don't feel very good about themselves in this. Ace of Cups. This is where naturally they start to employ some defense mechanisms. So one of the defense mechanisms that they typically will employ keeps them quieter, makes them smaller, okay? It makes them smaller, and this is something that if you were to bring this person back to a very youthful state, what you will find is that somehow in there they learn to make themselves smaller because it was a safer thing to do. They also learn to make themselves very big because that was useful in other situations. So in fear situations, they're going to go one way or the other. And this is where they are making themselves very small. Making themselves small from an emotional standpoint, which is coming out in a communication or a lack thereof. Although what you may notice here is that becomes very evident that it's just below the surface if they do reach out. So we're going to do a communication look here in a moment, but this is the most promising sense of communication we've had in a while, especially since last time it was flatly they are unlikely to communicate, and if you communicate with them, they're likely to be very quiet, might not respond, might take a long time to respond. It feels like there's just it's incites fear when they see communication from you. At least that's what was showing up last time. So we're going to do the communication check and see what would happen if there was communication, not necessarily from one direction or the other, just what would happen in that place. Because we've got the Death card. We've got the Death card. We've got the, well, first off, we had the Fool. We have a lot of indications that there is change, and there is change that results in communication, or at least breaking down of the defenses that are keeping the communication quiet, keeping them quiet. So you have a Three of Wands here. They have distinctly broken, they burnt some bridges with you, is what they feel like, and you may feel like it too. It's definitely this sense of not having done what all needs to be done in order to keep this relationship where it should be, in order to make this relationship what it should be. So they're feeling not just intimidated, but like they haven't kept up on their side, which they haven't. Let's see what we got here. Oh, Earth Mother. Okay, so this is the equivalent of the Empress, and this one says they're ready to talk. Huh. Okay. So we're definitely going to do the communication check. We also need to get into their emotional state because that feels like it's ringing to come out right now. That was going to be our third pile here, but now, yes, I can do the communication check. I wanted to double check and make sure, like, is it ringing in my mind because I'm supposed to do it anyway? No, I'm going to do the communication check here. Then we're going to do the deep dive on the emotional state when we get into the extended. So that will be what we'll do. So if you want to go to the extended, I'm just going to clear the cards and just keep going. Okay, I will cut tape at some point, and then it'll come back up when I'm going to do the extended, and that'll be at the link below. But yes, I am looking forward to that one because I feel like that's going to be important. So we're doing the communication check first, like I said. So this is what happens if you communicate. It doesn't talk about who breaks the silence. You could run into each other and no one breaks the silence, but what happens? Knight of Cups. Okay, this is positive. That is positive communication, positive action. The example that I was just giving you, if you run into this person in real life, they ask you what you're doing this weekend, but the part where they say, I shouldn't be asking you, they keep that part in their head and they overrule it. That's basically what I'm hearing there. That's kind of, barriers are falling. This is very much that sense of what we saw before with the be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it. Here we have the Jupiter card. This is not just, this is an ardor. This is not just moving forward and deciding that, yes, this is now what the path that I'm going to take and that I'm going to exhibit my control. This is much more a situation where they are, they're into it. Like they're into it. You have to, I hope you are into it. I hope you're ready. because this is going to be something that requires some of your attention. So whatever it is you thought you were doing kind of changes up a little bit when the communication occurs. And it does feel like this seems face-to-face to me. Five of Wands, this is conflict, but it's like, this is heavy awkwardness. This is heavy awkward. It's not necessarily conflict, like you can't work your way out of it, but it's like you run into each other and neither one of you was expecting it. And now you're like, ah, what do I do? And there's a little bit of a sense of having to figure it out while you're sitting there in front of each other. There's very much that. Now, I could see that same thing happening over text, but having it come across a little differently. Either way, though, it does feel like you're going to see that indecision right in front of them, but then they say, that's not the part I want you to focus on. The deal is, here I am. I'm right here, right now, and I'm moving forward with this. I don't know that they have that piece in their mind that says I shouldn't be doing this. I think it's still there. That person with the dream. Nice summary for what's going on with this person, whether they're showing up in your dreams or on your doorstep or whatever. They have that feeling, okay, what are you doing this weekend? Wow, I shouldn't be asking that. Let's see what we got down here. Okay. Dropped a card. You guys know I do these readings standing up, and so when I drop a card, sometimes it likes to even go under the table that I'm working with. That's always super fun. But if we drop them in their face up, they're usually viable. Like, go ahead and use it, you know. So I always look down there like, well, is that my next card? Okay. Let's see. So we've got a Five of Wands and the Chariot. The Chariot is very go for broke. Even this came out yesterday, even though they don't know the direction. And let me see what I dropped. Okay. So we have the Chariot and we have the Five of Wands in the reverse. Five of Wands over here talks about that awkwardness, that need to, it's kind of, okay, here you are. Now what are you going to do? It's actually, it feels like conflict. It feels like conflict. But then we've got the Five of Wands over here, which kind of talks about what happens when that conflict occurs. What happens to you guys when that conflict happens? Because this feels very much like you're able to come together and get aligned. That is what it feels like. It's getting aligned. So with the Chariot, what allows that alignment? This is like why ice freezes more, or water freezes into ice more quickly when you put it in there and it's already warm. Has to do with the molecules not having as many limitations. Okay, so they're more free to move around, and so they can get into that ice crystallization pattern a little bit more quickly. That's essentially what it is. And so this is the same sort of thing. They are not picking a direction so that when one starts to occur, they're able to settle into it a little bit more naturally, gracefully. That awkwardness starts to fall away. And you get to a place where that's where it's going to be important to understand their emotional state. So I guess that's why we needed to do it this way. The Wheel of Fortune. Okay, we got the Star. Wheel of Fortune and the Star and the Two of Cups. Shit. Okay, so this is not necessarily what I was hoping for, because it feels like coming into union, but not necessarily having everything right. Okay, so we already know that we've got a wave of people coming into union right now. We've had some, this has happened before. This is a larger wave, and it feels more representative of the overall group, but it can't be all of us, and it isn't being all of us. I've noticed, even though that feeling is out there, it's kind of like it's brought everybody a little bit closer, but it has not created culmination of this union. So the deal is, with the Star card and the Wheel of Fortune, they're being held in place, and you're being held in place to see something that you need to understand, a lesson that you both need to learn, but that you haven't quite mastered. And yet, we've got union. We've got coming into union anyway. So this feels like both of you potentially coming into union unhealed, which could be a situation, a recipe for just kind of bouncing back off of each other and having to go back through the cycle again. So that is a possibility that comes out of this. I wouldn't say that's going to be for everybody, because people are at different points in the cycle, but this is powerful. And here we have the Ace of Wands. In the reverse, that is self-destructive. Powerful, self-destructive. They believe they're doing something self-destructive when they do not stop themselves. So that's the gist of what happens when the two of you come into communication. It is very full steam ahead, but it also feels like there's something that isn't quite worked out, something that isn't quite figured out here. That's going to show up and that's going to matter. And this is why we needed to do the emotional state next. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the cards up and do the other half. I'm going to go ahead and do the extended portion of the reading. We're also going to get you some advice because I feel like in this situation, that is something that you need. Yeah, let's do it. It's like they're coming into union and it's too late to call it off now. That is what this feels like to me. It will be super interesting to get that energy, that check on the deep dive on their emotions, because I feel like I almost still felt like we needed that information at the same time as the communication check. But Spirit knows what they're doing, so I think we're in good shape here. I'm going to come back with that. After I get done shuffling, I will come back with the emotional deep dive. And then we're going to get some advice for you in this situation. Because honestly, I'm just going to say it kind of feels like you might need it. So I will see you right after I get done with the shuffling. But for now, I would just say thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you over in that extended.